But this is a story about wisdom and luck. And wisdom and luck were travelling together along a road, and they were arguing, debating about which one of them was the most important in the world, which one had the most value, gave the most value to the world. And luck said, but if it wasn't for me, then nobody would get out of any of their problems. People would go through life faced with one insurmountable problem after another. And wisdom said, but that's not so, because I give them the wisdom to overcome these problems, to avoid these problems in the first place. And so it went backwards and forwards, neither one of them giving any ground. They were like a lever and a remainer, just kind of battling it out between them. As they continued on their way, they heard the cry of a young child. And Luck turned around and said, right, that's our opportunity. Tell you what we'll do. Let us have a competition. And in this competition, we shall see which one of our particular attributes guide this child best in life. And tell you what, as it's my idea, I'm going to let you go first. And I'll bide my time. We'll see how you do. Wisdom said, that's absolutely fine. And so they go to the house, they find this newborn babe, and Wisdom enters the child. And as soon as Wisdom enters the child, all of the adults around this young boy say, isn't this child so wise? Doesn't he look so intelligent? He's so attentive to everything around him. Well, the young child grew. And as he grew up, he became so intelligent. He became so learned. He absorbed everything he could. The elders in the village taught him everything that they could. And by the time he had become a young man, he had learnt everything that the wisest people in the village could possibly teach him. He decided that it was time for him to go out into the world and seek his fortune. So this is what he did. He had learnt a trade, he had become a tailor, but a very, very well-educated tailor. And he set out on the road. He made his living by plying his trade upon the way until he came to the big city, made his way to the castle. And over the next few months, got a job in the castle, earned his way up through dint of his wisdom and his intelligence and his skills until he was tailor to the king. Now this king had a beautiful young daughter, and not only was she beautiful, but she was herself as wise and as intelligent as her beauty. And it had come to the point where the king wanted his daughter to marry, but the daughter was not that keen on marrying, and the two of them argued backwards and forwards about this, day after day, until his daughter got so fed up, she said, right, from this moment onwards, I am not going to utter one word. I am going to completely hold my silence until a man comes along who can make me speak. That will be the man that I shall marry. The king was furious, but from that moment onwards, his daughter did not utter a word. And so he made a proclamation that whoever made his speech, made his daughter give voice, he would give the hand of his daughter in marriage to, whether it be prince or pauper. But in order to make sure that no time wasters were involved or no trivial attempts to marry the princess, he said, were you to fail, then you shall be put to death. Well, despite this, there were plenty of young men willing to make the attempt. And I tell you, there were plenty of young men who died. Weeks went past, months went past, and yet nobody managed to make the princess speak. Well, our young man, the tailor, one day happened to see the princess walking through the palace, and he thought, well, if she is as wise and as intelligent as she is beautiful, then we would have a very happy life together indeed. And he approached the king, and he said, Your Majesty, I would like to have a chance to see whether I could make your daughter speak. The king laughed. He said, You fool, for you will fail, and when you fail, you will be put to death. The boy laughed in return. He said, I will not fail, for I am very wise. The king sneered. He said, Very wise, you say. Well, I say that you are a fool, but you will have your chance. And he handed the young man to one of his guards. He said, Take this man to my daughter and stand outside the room. He shall spend the night in her company, and you shall listen at the door. And if she does not speak in that time, you are to take him away and hang him. Well, the guard takes him away, opens the princess's door, and pushes the young man in. Closes the door. The young man looks around, he sees the princess there, and he thinks, right, well, this is my opportunity. But he does not, as you might think, turn round and say anything to the princess. No. He turns away from the princess and faces the candelabra. And he starts to tell the candelabra the story. Candelabra, he says, there were once 3 travellers. There was a woodsman, there was a tailor, and there was a teacher. And these 3 travellers had travelled many miles, and they came across a trunk of wood, the trunk of a tree lying on the floor. And this trunk had a shape about it that inspired the woodsman to carve it, and so he carved it in the shape of a woman. And once he had done so, the carving was of such beauty that the tailor, he looked at it and he thought, I cannot leave this carving unclothed. And so he set about sewing and making some beautiful clothes for the carved statue of the maiden. And he dressed the carved statue in these beautiful clothes. And they lifted it and they placed it in their carriage and continued their journey. Overnight, the teacher thought to himself, well, I cannot just leave this statue sat there. She is so beautiful and so vibrant. I must teach her to speak. And so as they travelled throughout the night, he taught the statue to speak. And in the morning, they put this question to her. Which one of us 3 would you marry? And then they started arguing between the 3 of them. The woodsman said, well, if it hadn't been for me, she would never have been carved in the first place. Therefore, I must be the one to marry her. But the tailor said, but if I hadn't clothed her, she would never have been properly human. And the teacher said, she has been given the power of the utterance of speech. So we must ask her, who would you like to marry? And the boy didn't give the candelabra a question, the answer to the question. The boy turned to the candelabra and he said, so candelabra, who do you think she said she would like to marry? Well, obviously the candelabra came back with no response whatsoever. The princess standing behind him, the teacher, of course! Oh, damn it! Damn it! Well, you made me speak. It will be you that I will marry. Hurrah! Said the boy, the man. And he opened the door, and he said, take me to the king, for I shall marry the princess. Well, as luck would have it, the guard said, I shall do no such thing. I am taking you to the gallows where you shall hang. Because the guard, from the minute he had closed that door, had fallen fast asleep and he had heard not one word of what had gone on. And he hauled away the young man, and he took him to the gallows. And this was the conversation between luck and wisdom, for however wise the boy had been, bad luck had befallen him. As the boy was being marched up to the gallows, as the noose was being placed around his neck, luck engineered that the princess should walk past a window where she could see the gallows in front of her and call out at that moment, "Stop! That man is to be my future husband. That man is the man who made me speak." At which point the hangman removed the noose. The man was presented to the king along with his daughter, and the two were happily married. And I can tell you that they lived very happily, very wisely, and very luckily from that moment onwards. And all I've got to add, really, is that I wish that you can continue to live in wisdom and with much luck for the rest of your lives.